Atlantic. Teach Them Out is aimed at inculcating skills, values, morals, informing as well as entertaining children around the globe. Teach Time Out is divided into 3 beautiful segments. The first is story time, and the second is DIY segment. The third is the diary, where we go on an exciting trip. We'll be right back after this break. Stay with us. Welcome back from the break. This is still Teach Them Out. You can be part of this show by sending a message to the number showing on your screen to find out how. And you can also join the conversation beyond here by following us on all our social media handles showing on your screen. Now the first segment, story time. I'll be reading you an interesting story titled The Sluggard by Akpojoto Lugard Okololo. Once upon a time, in a rural settlement called Duguta, there lived a very lazy man named Kabi. Kabi was an idle man who did not want to work with his hands. He lived in a thatch house adorned by an old rickety chair and a mat. Kabi would not accept people's offer for him to work for them. He preferred to walk about the village, gossiping and fomenting trouble. Everybody disliked Kabi. On countless occasions, Kabi had been caught stealing. He had been humiliated and flogged, but still, this didn't deter him. As lazy as Kabi was, he had a dream of living the life of affluence. He wished to become wealthy, marry a beautiful wife, and own his own properties around the globe. Yet, he was unwilling to work. Kabi continued to live in idleness, believing that someday manna will fall from heaven. And when he was old enough to marry, no woman was willing to marry Kabi because, of course, he was too lazy. Someday, I will own a mansion and many properties, Kabi boasted to himself. Enaru was a palm wine tapper who owned a shop where he sells palm wine and other alcoholic drinks. His palm wine had been the best in the whole of Duguta. It was because of this that many people clustered at his shop waiting to buy his palm wine. And whenever there was an occasion, Enaru's palm wine was the first to be sought after. Enaru observed how, for some time, Kabi has been speaking of getting rich. But how can you become wealthy, marry a wife, and own many properties when you have refused to work? Queried Enaru, the palm wine tapper. That is simply impossible. Kabi threw himself into a fit of laughter. Who told you it is impossible? My dreams will definitely come true. Good, remarked Enaru, but you must start working. You can't just sit and fold your hands waiting for all this to happen to you. You will die wretched, as you are an idle man. Forget! Kabi discarded the idea. Manna will definitely fall from heaven for me. Don't be deceived, Kabi. Manna won't fall from heaven, cautioned Enaru, the palm wine tapper. You have to work with your hands. I haven't heard of anyone who had made it in life without working for it. Take a look at all the wealthy men in this village. They have all worked for it, said Enaru. Beating his hands against his chest, Kabi boasted, with I, Kabi, all things are possible. When Enaru knew that Kabi couldn't be persuaded, he left him to his fate. That day, while Kabi was returning home, he came across a goat tied to a tree trunk. His eyes were dazed, and he felt very hungry. Looking left and right, he untied the goat and took it home. The goat bleated noisily. His tiny legs ferried him at once to his compound. When Odimi, the owner of the goat, came outside to check on his goat, he was shocked to see that he couldn't find the goat. He knew instinctively that Kabi must be behind the theft of his goat. Furiously, he dashed to Kabi's house. Odimi went berserk when he found out that the goat was indeed in Kabi's house. "Kabi, the thief!" Odimi hollered. "How did you get my goat into your house?" Kabi was taken aback, but still he protested. Odimi made a move to snatch the goat. Kabi prevented him. "Move an inch closer, I will chop off your head," threatened Kabi. His eyes were red with rage. The old man was frightened. He knew better than to engage Kabi in a scuffle. Odimi went at once to the palace of the king to register his complaint. The king, after hearing Odimi's complaint, was livid. He sent his guard to fetch Kabi immediately. One of the guards dragged the goat along. When they had reached the palace, the goat was tied to Kabi's waist. "Young man, why have you chosen to be stubborn? Why did you choose to bring shame upon yourself?" The king asked in a harsh tone. Kabi smirked. "My king, I don't know what you are talking about," denied Kabi. "Why did you steal Odimi's goat?" The king asked. By now, the villagers had all gathered. They rebuked Kabi vehemently. Kabi bent down and began to observe the goat. When he was done, he raised his head and said, "But my king, Odimi's name is not written on the goat. How can he then accuse me of stealing his goat?" Few of the villagers chuckled at his guts. That was Kabi. He had a knack for mischief and says funny things. The king was furious. "I wonder what has come over your senses. If you want to eat goat meat, can't you go and buy for yourself? Why must you steal your fellow man's goat?" queried the king. "But God has told us to have dominion over everything that moves on the earth." Kabi mumbled. "I was only having dominion over the goat." Laughter enveloped the palace. Kabi's funny remark drew the ear of the king. "Take him away," ordered the king. Two guards came forward and grabbed Kabi's arms. While they were dragging him out of the palace, he implored, "Pardon me, my king. Remember, I need to have dominion over the goats." Again, everyone in the palace roared with laughter. Kabi was flogged 40 strokes and was sent home. Nursing his wounds, Kabi returned home sad, dejected, and hungry. And that day, he decided to confront some of the rich men in Duguta. The first man he approached was Ife. The first man he approached was Ife, who owned a very large farmhouse with thousands of cattle. Ife was shocked to see him at his house. "Is this not Kabi, the sluggard?" he said almost to himself aloud. "Pray, tell me, what is the source of your wealth?" "I desire to be rich," Kabi said. Puzzled by Kabi's question, Ife was silent for a while, and he finally opened his mouth and said, "Hard work. If you must be rich, you must work very hard, Kabi." Kabi wasn't ready for this. His countenance changed, and he was so unhappy to hear that hard work is the source of being wealthy. If he observed Kabi closely and he knew he wasn't prepared to work, he knew how lazy and idle Kabi was. Think about it. If you had actualized all the time you have wasted loitering about doing nothing, you would have by now become rich if you had done something meaningful with your time. "Nonsense," blurted Kabi. "Must I work before I become rich?" He stood up and stormed out of the house. Ife watched him go in disbelief. Kabi headed straight to Jadifede's house, one of the richest men in Duguta. "Pray, tell me, what is the source of your wealth?" Kabi asked. Jevede sang for the same hymn book as Efe. You must work with your hands and do something meaningful. Only fools will refuse to work and they want to eat. They will definitely die of poverty, Devete said to Kabi. When Kabi had confronted all the men in Duguta and they had all said the same thing, he was sure that he wouldn't get a different answer. One day, he was at the palm wine joint. He overheard conversation between two men. Have you heard? Asked the first man, a short fellow. Heard what? Asked another man who had a long beard. The latter man sounded very curious. The former man opened up and told him the gist. There was a certain rich man who lived in a faraway land. This man's father had buried a box of gold before he died. Before he died, he told his sons about his secret possession. The rich man is looking for a young, vibrant man who would help him dig the hole and bring out the box of gold. He has promised to reward the person handsomely. The man had vowed to reward the person who could help him retrieve the box. But the funniest thing is, no man has shown up yet, said the man. The man went further to say that if he were still a young man, he would have gone to dig up the box of gold. But why hasn't anyone showed up yet? Asked the man with the long beard in a tune. By now, Kabi was very curious. He reasoned that if he could go and grab the offer, he could be very rich. Curiously, he drew closer to the men to hear more about the gist. The man who had talked about the secret box decided to take him to the rich man's house the next day. Now, Kabi didn't know that this was a trick. The man, whose name was Odofo, had discussed Kabi's issue with the said rich man and had planned to make Kabi realize that it is only hard work that can guarantee success. The next day, after traveling for hours, both men arrived at the rich man's house. Odofo introduced Kabi to the rich man. The man nodded his head and he turned to Kabi. Are you sure you can help me retrieve my father's box from the ground? He asked. Kabi nodded his head in affirmation. But you have to pay me for this job, he said. The rich man smiled. This is for sure. You have to retrieve the box first, he said. The man took Kabi to his backyard and showed him a spot. There, this is where the box was buried. Pray, help me dig it out, the rich man said. He gave Kabi a shovel and a hoe. Kabi immediately set to work. After digging for hours, Kabi was exhausted. He dug and dug and dug, still could not find any box. I have dug deep, but I have not seen the box here, cried Kabi. Oh, said the rich man, you have to dig more. Remember, you have got to be rewarded. The rich man's words strengthened Kabi. He couldn't afford to lose the reward, and so he dug even deeper. Again and again he cried, I have dug deep and still haven't seen the box. The sun had set in, biting his skin. Frustrated and disenchanted, Kabi gave up the search. He cried to the rich man, Look, I have even dug up the subsoil and the box isn't here. Tell me, isn't this a joke? Anger was written in his eyes and the rich man laughed. Then he told Kabi the truth. You are a young man, Kabi, and the blood of vigor is still flowing in your veins. If you can use this energy to do something meaningful, be rest assured that you will be rich. He knew that the rich man was right. Kabi thanked the rich man. When he returned to Duguta, he became rich because he started working very hard. The moral of the story is that laziness is bad. You cannot achieve anything by being lazy. If you want to make progress, you have to work hard. And for sure, you will see success. So stop giving excuses, get up, take up the challenge, and I bet you success awaits you. We're going to take another short break now. before we go to the DIY segment. Stay with us. Welcome back from the break. On this segment, we'll be teaching you how to make a simple apron. Apron that you use to cook, just very simple apron using needle and thread. You don't need a machine to make apron. Enjoy it. Hello viewers, this is Blessing, also known as Fine Wine. She will be teaching us how to make an apron. The items you'll be needing for this DIY are a piece of material, a scissors, a matching thread, a needle, tailor's chalk, and of course a measuring tape. So the first thing you do is to fold your material into two like this. You'll be folding your material in order to suit your measurement. She is using her measurement. The measurement you'll be needing: shoulder to nipple, and her shoulder to nipple are 9 inches, and she'll be marking it with the tailor's chalk, and you do that for the two places. The next measurement she'll be using is nipple to nipple. Her nipple to nipple are 8.5 inches, but she'll be taking 9 for a little sewing allowance. The next measurement will be from nipple to hips. So the next thing you're going to be doing is to give it a nice curve down to the hip area. It's at this hip area you'll be fixing your full length like this. The reason why you're doing this is to give it a shape that the apron usually has. The next thing to do is to cut out from your nipple. Cut it out. Now this one you're cutting out, you would still use the material to sew the rope to hang it on your neck, as well as the rope for your waist. Our apron is almost ready. The next thing we're going to be doing is to cut out the rope for the neck and for pockets. Now you see, it is not exactly how it should be, so we'll take it to the table and give it a fine cut to make it good. So this is to cut out the excess of, so you can give it a nice fitting. You just trim off the excess. So you can see what it looks like now. So the next we'll be doing is to cut the pockets and the ropes. One of these pieces will be used for the pocket. 25 inches plus sewing allowance 26 inches long for the rope for the neck to hang the apron on our neck, and the width of it will be 3 inches in order for sewing allowance and all. We'll take 20 inches for the ropes for the waist, and we'll also take 3 inches width. We'll cut it out, then make 2 types like this for the waist. Now we have cut all the things we need to cut. It's ready. This is the apron, the pocket, the rope for the neck, and of course the 2 ropes for the waist. So we will now thread our needle and start our needle work. To the end, we'll leave this other side open to be able to turn it. Fold your thread into 2 like this and thread it on your needle. While you're folding it into 2, By the time you thread it, it will become 4. The reason is to make the stitches strong so it doesn't loosen. This is the 3 pieces. They are all hand sewn. The next thing we'll do is to be turning it inside out using the safety pin. Okay, so now we have turned the 3 ropes out. Now we're going to be fixing the neck rope to the cloth like this. You fold it, sew it with your needle and thread like this. You can see this is what we now have. What is left now is for us to fix the pocket. Now the essence of this DIY is just to, you have a material in your house, use it to sew an apron. You don't need to buy an apron from the market. So the pocket now, this DIY is done with needle and thread. No, this needle and thread. So if you have free material in your house, you can just use it with your needle and thread and sew a beautiful apron like this one. So we'll be fixing the pocket right about now. So we're going to be using the lighter. You can see how rough the edges are. This is a piece for the pocket. You're using the lighter to burn all the edges and the excesses. This DIY should not be done for children less than the age of 12. So the next thing we're going to do is to use the lighter to burn the rough edges of the pocket. Since we're not sewing it on the machine, we use it to burn the edges so it can be smooth. The same lighter we'll use to burn all the edges of the apron, this rough part, in order to give it a smoothness. This DIY should not be done for children less than the age of 12, so they'll be able to manage the fire. So after burning it round, we will then sew it with our needle and thread to the apron like this. Okay people, this is the beautiful apron made by Fine Wine. And so the idea of this is that you can just have a piece of cloth in your house. You don't need to buy from the market. Just sew it yourself, do it yourself, and be happy. The edges were made clean with the aid of lighter. Remember that this DIY should be done by children above age 11 under the supervision of an adult, because we are using fire. So it should be done under the supervision of an adult. Thank you so much for watching. Welcome back. I hope you can now make your own apron. Now this is the diary. We'll be taking an exciting trip to Obudu Cattle Ranch. Come with us. Nestled amidst the breathtaking landscape of Oshi Ridge in Sankwala Mountain, within the lush expanse of Obanliku local government area in Cross River State, Nigeria, lies the enchanting Obudu Cattle Ranch. This iconic destination beckons travelers with its promise of adventure, natural beauty, and unforgettable experience. The journey to Obudu Cattle Ranch begins at the gate, where visitors embark on an adventurous ride along the narrow roads that wind beneath the towering hills. As the rugged terrain unfolds before them, anticipation builds, setting the stage for the wonders that await within. One of the ranch's most iconic features is the exhilarating cable car ride. Suspended in the air and propelled along a cable, the cable car offers passengers a thrilling journey above the verdant landscape below. With each passing moment, passengers are treated to panoramic views that inspire both awe for the surrounding natural beauty and a hint of exhilarating fear as they gaze down into the lush green forest below. The cable car accommodates at least 4 passengers at a time, ensuring that friends and family can share in the exciting moment together. But the adventure doesn't end there. Visitors can stroll along the canopy walkway suspended high above the forest floor, offering a unique perspective of the rich biodiversity and thrives below. For those seeking a moment of serenity and reflection, Angel's View awaits, offering breathtaking vistas that stretch out to the horizon. Among the ranch's many highlights is the presidential villa, a luxurious retreat nestled amidst the tranquil surrounding, where guests can indulge in the ultimate comfort and relaxation. And those looking to immerse themselves in the vibrant culture of Nigeria's entertainment industry, the renowned Nollywood Center offers a glimpse into the world of film and television production. For newlyweds and other tourists seeking to escape the hustle and bustle of everyday life and immerse themselves in beauty of nature, Obudu Ranch is the perfect destination. With its stunning scenery, thrilling adventures, and luxurious accommodation, it is no wonder that visitors from near and far flock to the hidden gem for honeymoons, vacations, and unforgettable experiences that will last a lifetime. Welcome back from Obudu Ranch. And that's the size of our package for this episode of Teens Time Out. Remember, you too can be part of this. Just send a message to the number showing on your screen. You can also join the conversation beyond here by following us on all our social media handles. Before we go, we have a home assignment for you. Can you make your own homemade apron? If you can, do a video of yourself making the apron, and you might just be lucky to be a guest on our show. Thank you very much for staying with us. Until next week,